Thank you for the honor of being able to join you in this terrific program and to be with this terrific group of people this afternoon. Elijah McClain was killed in August of 2019, and following his death, there was internal investigations that took place in the Aurora Police Department. It was late in the evening, around 10:30, 11 o'clock, and Mr. McClain put on a sort of a bulky, not heavy, but a sort of a loose-fitting jacket, and he wore a hat over his head, a mask. They called it a mask. It wasn't. It was covered his ears, but it opened in the front. And they called the police, and they called the 911 and said there was a suspicious person walking on the street. They dispatched 3 police officers to where Mr. McClain was, and one officer pulled up on him, waited about 10 seconds till 2 other officers in another car arrived. They told him to stop. He took a few steps. They grabbed him. They continued to use force against Mr. McClain in accelerating ways. They use what they call pain compliance techniques, where they put pressure on his large muscles. An officer is sitting on it. Mr. McClain is pleading that he cannot breathe. Throughout this entire event, the officers and the medical personnel displayed consistent evidence of their own bias about who Mr. McClain was.
What was going through your mind when you're thinking of how best to present the findings to the council?
We're in a difficult moment where there's a lot of video out there about that shows the death and torment and torture of Black people. And it's become important for us to see it because it's the only way that our broader culture has accepted that it's happening. But there's also just a tremendous risk of it becoming normalized and also of traumatizing people who may see themselves reflected in what's happening in those videos. And so we made a deliberate choice not to show the video. So we talked about it, I described it, I quoted Mr. McClain at length in my presentation, but we didn't want to normalize the torment and murder of Black men.
I wanted to kind of shift then to discussing public safety more broadly and the kind of changes in the broader discourse around the nature of policing that we've seen. So I'm curious what public safety means to you, and kind of as like a related question, how, if at all, the debate surrounding defunding police or prison abolition have shaped any of the work that you do, or if that at all informs some of the ongoing debates in your respective area.
In the political discourse of this country, we think about public safety as how it is that we use police to enforce the laws, whatever exactly that means. We've given communities the choice that you can either put up with those behaviors, you can live in communities where things happen that make you feel unsafe, or you can have police who commit the kinds of acts that also make you feel unsafe. Anybody who spends any time talking to people about these issues knows that there is an incredibly rich depth of commitment to doing that and ideas and resources and knowledge about their community. Where the people who most know how to solve this problem, people who most know what needs to be done, are never asked.
What advice you might have for students interested in either a similar career path as the one that you took or in affecting change in this area? Is civil rights law the pathway to doing that? Do you have advice perhaps even beyond the law for students? Just how can people get involved today?
It's critically important that we recognize that what happens in the street is going to drive forward where we go as a culture. That even what happened today in the United States Supreme Court, we shouldn't consider that done. Think about the way that activism has over time changed the dynamic so that the courts can do things that are more protective of people's rights. The demonstrations in 2020 and 2021 made a difference all across the country, both in the way that legislators acted. They didn't do as much as I think we all would have wanted, anything close to what we all would have wanted, but they did things that were important. And it changed the way that in many courts, the judges responded to these kinds of cases. We need to be angered by the injustice, but not destroyed by it. And what Rustin always said was that, you take that anger and you turn it into action, but we can't let the narrative be owned by others. We need to keep telling this story in important ways and change the culture.